Okay, so welcome to the Western Homes Community Stadium ahead of this weekend's big East Anglian derby, if you want to call it an East Anglian derby. I'm Stuart Watson, the Colchester United reporter for the East Anglian Daily Times, and I'm joined by my opposition journalist in the Norwich camp, Chris Lakey from the Eastern Daily Press. Chris, much been said about this game, and suddenly it's now here upon us. Looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to it. I'll be a lot happier if the weather were a lot better than it is today. We're here on press day, but it's a pretty horrible day. But yeah, it's going to be a cracker, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be full for the first time, 10,000 people, and it's not going to be a quiet game of football. Let's face it, it's going to be ultra. I think it's going to be noisy. The atmosphere is going to be fantastic, and two very good teams. I mean, it should be a good game of football. It just, as I say, I hope the conditions are a little bit better.
I'll ask you about Norwich in a moment, but just as you probably can see over our shoulders, the covers are now coming off the pitch. It's Thursday morning. Going to be no problems with the surface, fingers crossed. So back to the game, Chris. Tell Colchester United fans a little bit about what we can expect from Norwich, perhaps 5-6 months on from that opening game of the season.
Quite easy, really. An absolutely and totally different team. There are players who've survived. There are others, more famously, who haven't survived. But I think certainly it's a very different team. Football's not just played with the feet, I think it's played between the ears. And Paul Lambert has come in and given them a different type of football intelligence. The defence is more solid. He's keeping the same team as much as he can. We know his preferred lineup. There are obviously one or two little changes here and there. And it's worked. I mean, Grant Holt is the leading scorer. He's got 16 goals in the league, another 6 in other competitions. Norwich has scored a half-century of goals. You've got Wes Hoolahan, who week after week we hear managers saying that he's the most technically gifted player in the league. Norwich and Ipswich fans will have their, Colchester fans, will have their views on that on Saturday. You've got Chris Martin, who scores goals. You've got a compact unit, and he's playing with a diamond. He's found where Wes Hoolahan should play. He's playing in a diamond formation, and it's working. You know, they're trotting off win after win at home, and they're unbeaten in a dozen games.
Where's the weakness? Is there a weakness, Chris? Because Adi Boothroyd has now got the decision whether he goes with Clive Platt, the big man up front. He did a lot of the damage, obviously, in the 7-1, or whether he goes with a bit more pace. Perhaps Stephen Gillespie alongside Kevin Lisby. Where would the weakness be in the Norwich backline?
It's a hard one to call there because I mean, Gary Doherty, who obviously will probably still have nightmares about the first game there, and Michael Nelson, who is a better footballer than he was then. You know, I mean, Michael Nelson, give him one touch, and with his boot or his head, and it'll be cleared. I think if you give him too much to play with, he's not as effective. But just one touch to stop it, and I think they'll both relish that battle with Platt and Lisby. Lisby's a very tricky player. Norwich fans know all about him. I think him and Doherty could be a really interesting battle because he's the sort of player, probably Gary Doherty. He's really going to have to be on top of his game to keep a hold on. Two good fullbacks. Russell Martin came in from Peterborough United on loan and then a permanent transfer this month. Good midfielders, of course. Wes is Darryl Russell sitting at the back of the midfield, who's absolutely superb this season, and good strikers. I mean, I shouldn't say it like this probably, but they are second in the league. They are chasing leads, so they are a good team. And Colchester, obviously, are a very good team as well. You don't get that high up the table without being good. So, it's a good start.
Yeah, it's certainly shaping up to be a cracker. I noticed a bit of a Freudian slip there. You mentioned Ipswich.
I did slip into it because we were talking about derbies, and of course it's still a Mahid about Ipswich being the derby.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is this an East Anglian derby? You know?
No, it's not. It's not the derby game, is it? I mean, you have your own derby, we have our own derby. Norwich's derby is Ipswich. You know, and until those two teams meet again, there will not be a derby match. It happens all over. I mean, I think that you can get to Peterborough. That's not very far away. You know, that's no way a derby game. So, you know, the real derby game is Ipswich. This is the super substitute, I think, probably.
Make no bones about it, though. There's a fair bit of needle. I mean, let's quickly run through the soap opera events. There was obviously the 7-1 on the first game of the season. Then Paul Lambert's defection over to your club. Since then, there's been a lot of talk about compensation. The U's owner and chairman Robbie Cowling's had a few things to say, hasn't he? Do you think things could sort of boil over on the pitch because of what's been said off of it?
No, I don't think on the pitch. I think that the players will just shrug that off and they'll carry on. Both sets of players. If it does boil over, it will be because of something that happens on the pitch. But I don't think that they'll at all think about that. No, not at all. In the, you know, what you're going to hear on Saturday, I mean, beware children, put your fingers in your ears, you might hear things you don't want to hear. That's where it's going to be played out, in the seats, in the terraces, that's where it's going to be played out.
What's your views on the ticket scenario? And obviously Norwich fans are going to have the whole of the North Stand away to our right-hand side. Is that enough? Were Colchester within their rights to say that's all you're having?
Well, they're within their rights, of course, but somebody pointed out to me yesterday that if this were all ticket and you gave Norwich 10,000 tickets, Norwich would fill it. There's the problem. Norwich have got such good support that they would fill this stadium with a match of this magnitude. They will fill that no problem, and obviously they have done. There are going to be people who are scattered around who shouldn't be in seats. You know, fingers crossed that they behave. I think they will. Yeah, it's one of those things that happens in football. Sadly, it's not been a particularly pleasant background to the game, and I have issues with some of the comments that have been made, which I think stoke it up. But no, hopefully it'll go off okay.
But is that not the case for all well-supported clubs? Manchester United could probably fill every ground they go to, but they don't necessarily get more than their minimum. So why should it be any different for this one?
I think the thing is that Colchester weren't totally certain that they would sell this game out. So when Norwich said, "Look, we can bring more," the response that no, I'd rather have empty seats suggests that there was a possibility there would be empty seats. And of course, I think those comments have actually done, served to sell this game to the Colchester public. But I think if there'd been empty seats in this ground on Saturday at a good proportion, I was here at the back end of last season when Peterborough played here, and Peterborough could have brought another 1,000 people and found seats, had seats found for them in this ground. So and they didn't get any more tickets. So I think it's a little bit naughty to start saying that you'd rather have empty seats and lose money than give them to Norwich fans. I think that stirred it up a little bit too much.
Let's get back to things on the pitch. Lest we not forget there is a game.
Yep.
I'm going to push you now, Chris. What's your prediction?
Well, a Norwich win, I think, and I would say that, wouldn't I? But I've seen them so often, and they don't like losing. I remember at Yeovil, they went behind in injury time and still got a draw. They just don't like losing, and they're on a fantastic run at the moment. I know Colchester have done very well. I know they had their blip in their last game. It was FA Cup, and it was against a team from a higher division. I think it's going to be close, but I really think Norwich will win. I'm sure you don't agree with that.
No, I wouldn't agree, because I've seen Colchester here quite a lot. I think they've only lost 2 games under Adi Boothroyd. I think there's perhaps only been 2 home defeats over the course of the season. So they're a tough team to beat out here, and they're very resolute. And putting aside the 7-0 in the FA Cup, which I do put down as a bit of a freak result, Adi Boothroyd said that he's not going to sweep that one under the carpet, and you don't lose 7-0 without being very, very poor, which they were on the day. But they won't be the same side come Saturday. If you were going to ask me for a prediction, I think I'd probably go with the draw, and I think despite what you say about Norwich not wanting to lose, it's the same for Colchester, and I think both sides perhaps would admit now that a draw wouldn't be the worst result for either of them at the moment. I think you're probably right. I've got to say Norwich, and you've got to say Colchester. Well, yeah, perhaps I would. I don't want to go upsetting any of the Colchester fans watching this website, but well, pleasure speaking to you, Chris, and I'll see you just over there in the press box in a few days' time. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, bye-bye.